One of the interesting details in our gospel today is that the disciples didn't recognize Jesus from his outward appearance. Clearly, when they were on the boat, they didn't know it was him until the great miraculous catching of fish. But even when they came ashore, it says that they didn't ask him who he was because they knew it was Jesus. So clearly, even then, he didn't look like he usually did, like they were expecting him to look. But I imagine it must have been a beautiful moment when Peter walked up on the shore to see Jesus in that moment. Maybe it'd be like when you see somebody that you haven't seen for 20 years and their appearance looks a lot different than it used to look. And there's that part of you which is hesitant to reach out, call out to them and say, hey, you, because they don't look like they used to. But your confidence in who that is overwhelms that hesitation. And then there's the great joyful moment when you're reunited with that person you haven't seen for 20 years. Maybe the meeting of Peter and Jesus on the shore was a little bit like that in today's gospel. But of course, the disciples recognized Jesus through some of these signs that he was present to them. And in our lives, too, there are a lot of times Jesus appears to us in ways that we don't expect. But there are signs that he is there with us, where our hearts can say, yes, it is the Lord. One thing that I'm reminded of is the rule from St. Ignatius of Loyola, who talks about spiritual consolation, which is that sense of God's presence with us. And he says this: I call it consolation when some interior movement of the soul is caused through which the soul comes to be inflamed with love of its Creator and Lord, and when it in consequence can love no created thing on the face of the earth, but in the Creator of them all. Likewise, when it sheds tears that move to love of its Lord, whether out of sorrow for one's sin, or for the passion of the Lord, or because of other things directly connected with his service and praise. Finally, I call consolation every increase of faith, hope, and charity, and all interior joy, which calls and attracts to heavenly things and to the salvation of one's soul, quieting it and giving it peace in its Creator and Lord. St. Ignatius there gives us some signs of God's presence, of Jesus' presence with us. But St. Paul also gives us some signs of God's presence too. We call these the fruits of the Holy Spirit. And St. Paul, in the letter of Galatians, chapter 5, says, the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. So when we experience these kind of signs of Jesus, we can know that he's with us. Maybe it's not in a way that we were expecting, not what we expected Jesus to look like, but all of these are signs that he's with us. The Lord never abandons us. He is always with us. And even if he comes to us in ways that we don't recognize, didn't expect him to come, we can recognize him and know that he is always present with us.